Hi, my name is Karen, and I'm an American lay student of Ajahn Suchart, or Phra Ajahn Suchart Abhijato, who's given me his permission to read his books to you for free. Ajahn Suchart's books and talks are always free. Any ads you may see or hear in this recording are put there by Google for its own revenue, in exchange for letting us use their platform for free. Please forgive me for any mispronunciations of names or words and for any background noises, as I'm just making these recordings in my apartment with an unruly dog, and sometimes noisy neighbors, and street noise, etc. All right, we are moving along with Against the Defilements by Phra Ajahn Suchart Abhijato, and we are starting today on page 76, moving right along. When you feel discouraged, not reaping results from your effort, you'll think that it is a waste of time and feel unmotivated. You have to keep thinking of the Buddha and other respectable teachers when you feel disheartened. They taught when there's despair, you have to fight and put up with it. You have to stay focused and keep on practicing. If you don't, then you may be worse off the next day, having regressed. At the very least, you'll be able to maintain your level if you keep on practicing. Once you've stopped, it is like backtracking, because you'll be living off your merit that you had done in the past. And when you've used up your past merit, you'll go down even further. Therefore, when you don't feel like practicing, you have to force yourself to practice. It is to maintain your level at the very least. This is so that you don't have to waste your time trying to regain your old position and can just keep making progress. Meditation practice is like waves. When you're on a high, you're full of motivation, chanda, and energy, virya. But there are also days when you're on a low. It fluctuates. That's just how it is. There are days when it's easy to meditate and be calm, and there are days when it feels like moving mountains to do so. No matter how hard you try to focus on Bhutto, it is just not possible. Your mind keeps thinking about other things and constantly gets distracted. Don't get upset or discouraged. Stay calm. Tell yourself that it is okay and that today is a bit challenging. It's like driving uphill. It requires a bit more work on the way up. But once you've reached the top, it is easy on the way down. You may take it easy on the day that you have tried meditating and just can't seem to stay focused or stop your mind from thinking. If you've tried your best and it still doesn't work. But you shouldn't give up too easily. Try to push yourself first until you really can't do it. If there's no use and it causes you stress and suffering instead, then take a break. And I'm scrolling to the next section, beginning again on page 80. I first began practicing at home. I just happened to have a row house that was unoccupied, so I stayed in it alone and practiced meditation for about 1 year. But I didn't stay there the entire time. There were times when I went to stay somewhere else. I sometimes went to stay on an island and such, but I mainly stayed alone. I did sitting and walking meditation in the house. I read Dhamma books and tried to control my desires to go out. I tried not to indulge myself because I knew that it was only enjoyable when I was out. But once I came back, I'd get lonely and sad. It is better to resist these urges and to control your mind in order to fight against the loneliness and depression in you. You know that they are mental defilements, kilesas, that they are emotions, and that they are only made up by your mind. If you keep on trying to do your sitting and walking meditation, these emotions will eventually subside on their own. This is the right way to address them. Once you've meditated, these feelings and emotions will disappear. That's when you realize the true value of meditation practice. If you don't meditate and instead let your mind ponder on things, you'll soon enough want to go out. When you don't get to go out, you'll get frustrated and sad. Once you've reestablished your mindfulness, you need to hurry back to your meditation practice. Just keep on meditating whenever you feel lonely and sad. Those emotions will disappear once your mind has calmed down. When you meditate on a regular basis, it will then become your habit. That's when you have a cure, a right and reasonable one. Not knowing how to address the issue, whenever you feel bored and upset, you go out shopping. You go sightseeing to take away the negative emotions. But once you come back home, you'd feel the same way. The suffering would come back again. But if you resort to the Dhamma, simply do sitting or walking meditation whenever there's suffering, and not think about going out and try to fight the urges, the suffering will subside once your mind is calm. So then you can just be at home. You're at ease when your mind is calm. Repeat the same thing when it resurfaces. If you're able to practice consistently, then there's no chance for it to resurface. With discontinuous practice, boredom may arise during the in-betweens. There's no chance for such a feeling to arise if you practice continuously. And I'm scrolling down to the next section, starting on page 84. Your mind has its own internal clock. For example, you usually wake up whenever you set your mind to. It all depends on how you train your mind, although it may not always be right on the dot. But as far as I've noticed, if you set the time you want to wake up in your mind before going to bed, you'll actually wake up then. It is as if there's a subconscious mind that keeps reminding you, and when it is time, you'll suddenly awake. But to meditate, you shouldn't really stick to the time. It is better to stick to the result of your meditation practice. Sometimes the time is up just as you're about to gain something, so you end up not getting what you could have gained. So it is better to not set the time when you meditate. It is better to keep it open. You should sit and meditate for as long as possible until you reap a result, or until you need to get up, as you can no longer stand it. To fully reap from your meditation, you need to practice like a pro, that is, to only meditate. If there is a time limit, then you won't get a proper result. So I would like you to keep on meditating and practicing until you see some result. Once you start seeing the results, you'll then be able to change your career from being a businessman to a Dhamma practitioner. And I'm scrolling to the next section, starting on page 86. It is difficult to pursue your practice as a layperson due to unfavorable surrounding conditions. It is just like receiving treatment when you're ill. There's a difference between getting treated at home and at a hospital. It is just not as fully equipped at home as it is at the hospital in terms of medicine, care, and equipment. You can perform any procedure or operation whenever you like, as opposed to at home. It is the same with Dhamma practice. There is a difference between practicing at home and at a monastery. There may be an exception for those with lots of merits and wealth who have a room to practice by themselves with no one to bother them. In that case, they can practice at home just like at the monastery. As for me, I practiced alone at home for 1 year, and there was no one to disturb me. I did make considerable progress, but I made much more progress as an ordained monk in a monastery. The conditions are much more conducive to practicing, as there is a teacher to keep motivating you. And continuing on, the next section, page 88. Those who already know how to meditate will also know the kind of environment that they need in order to practice. You won't need entertainment, you won't need friends, and you won't need to cure your loneliness by talking to anyone. When your mind is calm, you won't really think of anything, and you won't proliferate your thoughts. But if your mind isn't calm, it will keep on thinking. These thoughts, in turn, will give rise to all kinds of emotions. Thinking of things that used to make you happy when you're unhappy will make you sad and depressed. You'll then want to relive such happiness. If you used to enjoy your companions and lifestyle, then you won't be able to help but think about those past memories, especially while you meditate on your own in a forest. You won't be able to help but miss your friends and old lifestyle, and so you'll be sad and lonely. Eventually, you will not be able to stand it and end up going back to them. If you've meditated before and managed to calm your mind, you won't think about other things when you're here, because you have your duty. You're aware of your responsibilities. You know what you need to do. Restrain your thoughts. Sankhara. Scrolling to the next section, starting on page 90. If you carry on doing your meditation practice, there will be a seed of wisdom, panya, in your mind to fight against defilements, kilesas. Listening to those who have direct experience with the mind from their practice will save you time and effort from fumbling around. When you get to certain points, you'll know immediately what to do next in order to keep moving forward and carry on practicing. If you don't have anyone to guide you, you'll have to figure it out on your own, and sometimes there will be mistakes. Those who have never been through it before will get lost because they'll become attached to things. They may become attached to giving, and they'll keep wanting to give more. They don't understand the giving is for leading them to keeping their precepts. Then again, they aren't aware that keeping the precepts is to lead them to practicing meditation. So they get caught up in keeping their precepts by being too scrupulous in order to be pure. Anything they do becomes a cause for concern about whether they've broken their precepts. They end up with anxiety instead of peace of mind. If they manage to practice to the level of concentration, samadhi, they'll then be caught up in absorption. They don't want to withdraw from samadhi to contemplate things. Thinking can be very distracting and disturbing, but wisdom will not arise if they don't contemplate. In fact, giving, dana, precepts, sila, and cultivation through meditation practice, bhavana, support one another. They are like stepping stones. Once you've given dana, you should then move on to the next level, sila. When you're at the level of sila, you should next focus on cultivation through practice, bhavana. You can also do them all at once. If you have established giving and are ready to undertake the precepts, then go ahead. You can maintain the 5 or the 8 precepts. Keeping the 8 precepts will make your practice easier. There is a difference between the 5 and the 8 precepts. Keeping the 8 precepts is better because it is more conducive to attaining calm. Once you're calm, then you have to develop wisdom. Contemplate the 3 marks of existence, tilakkhana, and the 5 aggregates, khandhas, forms, rupa, feelings, vedana, perceptions, sanya, mental fabrications or thoughts, sankhara, and consciousness, vijnana, in order to realize that they are just natural states of being and that there is no self. You think that the body, thoughts, and emotions are yours, but in reality, they are just part of nature. Your body, for instance, is a composition of earth, water, wind, and fire. Feelings and bodily sensations are just a result of physical contact, which is called kaya vedana. Emotion, chitta vedana, is a result of your mental proliferation. If your thoughts lean toward defilements, then a sense of suffering, dukkha vedana, will arise. If your thoughts are inclined toward virtue, Dhamma, there will then be a sense of ease and calm. Continuing to contemplate these things will make you understand and know how to practice, allowing you to let go. Once you've understood, you'll let go. There won't be any problems or trouble with anyone. However other people behave, you'll see through them. You won't expect anything from them. When you're involved with someone, you'll readily see that there are only 2 outcomes, to stay or depart. Once you're aware of that, you're prepared to accept both outcomes. If they leave, then so be it. And if they stay, then so be it. Your mind won't be disturbed. Your mind will be calm. But if you don't accept this fact, only holding on to the idea that they have to be with you forever and not leave you, you'll then become agitated and upset when you sense that they might be leaving you. You have to understand and be able to accept this universal truth. There are 3 kinds of feelings, which are vedana, happiness, sukha, unsatisfactoriness, dukkha, and neither sukha nor dukkha. Knowing that it circles between these three kinds will allow you to accept whatever happens. You don't need to rush into or jump at anything. Neither do you need to push nor chase anything away. When you're happy, just don't get carried away, wanting it to last forever. When you're suffering, don't long for it to go away. Just let it be. Bear in mind that it will pass sooner or later. Be mindful of its condition and nature. When you're happy, just be aware of your happiness. When you're suffering, just be aware of your suffering. Your mind need not crave for one thing or another. That is how to practice. In order to control your mind in such a way requires a regular meditation practice. The meditation practice will make your mind equanimous, upekkha. But the equanimity will only last during the absorption, samadhi. Once you've withdrawn from it, you'll have to resort to wisdom in order to prolong that sense of equanimity. If not, then your mind will instantly lose that sense of equanimity. When you come across things that make you happy, sukha vedana, you'll jump at them. And when you come across things that make you unsatisfied, dukkha vedana, you'll run away from them. You have to restrain yourself. When you find happiness, hold back. Don't rush towards it or jump at it. When you face suffering, don't run away from it. Calm your mind, just as when your mind is absorbed in samadhi. If you can't control it, then you can keep on reciting Bhutto until that sense of suffering passes. For instance, when you're ill, the desire to get better is very tormenting, but you can calm your mind by continuing to recite Bhutto, not craving to get better, letting your emotions be, and reminding yourself that you'll just get better when it's time. Then your mind won't be agitated when you're ill. You can cure the suffering in your heart and mind, but you can't cure the physical pain. The physical pain is due to external causes and conditions. You'll feel better with time. Your mind is what you can cure and care for, so that it doesn't have to suffer along with your body. You need both concentration and wisdom when it comes to meditation practice. The mental concentration will allow your mind to be equanimous during the state of calm. But once your mind withdraws from concentration, and if it's not under the control of wisdom, then your mind will waver. It will sway towards happiness and away from suffering. Your wisdom is what keeps it from fluctuating. The wavering of your mind is dukkha, what gives you suffering. You'll find out for yourself when your mind is calm, and as soon as it gets shaken, suffering will arise immediately. These wobbles are due to your craving and desire. Craving not to have, craving not to be, vibhavatana, and craving to have, craving to be, bhavatana. Wanting to run away from your suffering is considered vibhavatana. We all want happiness, that is, the happiness in terms of feelings and sensations, or vedana. This is not the kind of happiness that comes from a peace of mind. The happiness that comes from inner peace, be it through concentration or wisdom, is a form of liberation, vimutti, which arises from the stillness of your mind. There are three kinds of happiness. There's a kind that comes from your feelings or sensations. For instance, when you see some forms that you like, then that is sukha vedana. A sense of appreciation arises. Such is a kind of happiness that arises and passes away. It changes according to external causes and conditions. You have to be careful with this kind of happiness. Don't be fooled by it. Don't hold on to it. Don't get attached to it. Hearing an unpleasant sound is dukkha vedana. Don't be averse to it. Just try to bear listening to it. There's nothing you can do about whatever bad things people say. It is none of your concern. What concerns you is to be aware of it and then to let it go. Focus on thinking that you can't stop them, but you can stop your mind. All of the Dhamma teachings boil down to the mind, to maintain the calmness of your mind and to not let it get carried away or fooled by anything. You must cut it off, let it go, and leave it behind. It all comes down to the fact that nothing is ours. Sabbe Dhamma anatta. All phenomena are not self. You were born with nothing, and you'll die just the same way. That's all there is to it. Don't get attached to anything. Make the most of what you have in the same way that the Buddha did. The Buddha gave up all his wealth and possessions and became a monk to cultivate sila, samadhi, and panya. The more you practice, the sooner you'll be liberated. When you build a house or a hut, a kuti, if you only put in 2 or 3 nails a day, you can keep doing it for the next 10 years, and it still won't be completed. But if you do it all day, all night, then it will be done within 1 or 2 days. It is the same with meditation practice. If you do it relentlessly, then soon enough you'll become enlightened, just as it was during the Buddha's time. But instead, you keep holding on to other things and spend more time doing those things. Just compare the time you spend on your practice to the time you spend doing other things. The answer should be very clear to you. I believe that's it for today. Yes, it is. So we will start in the next recording, which will be recording number 5, will be the next one. And that is going to begin on page 98 of Against the Defilements by Phra Ajahn Suchart Abhijato. I'll see you next time with metta. Bye-bye.